Hello everyone, welcome to the Broadcast Sport Tech Forum panel, Innovations in Lockdown. I hope wherever you're joining us from today that you're safe and well. My name is Megan, I'm the Senior Partnerships Manager at SPS within Sky Sports, and I'm so pleased to be here to chair this discussion today. So we all know that 2020 has thrown so many obstacles at us, not least with the total lockdown the country went into earlier this year. Today, we're going to hear from some of the technical brains that kept the show on the road for us this year, and they're going to shed some light onto how they did it. We are very fortunate to have with us today Emili, the CTO and Operations Manager at MediaPro, and Sid, the Head of Vision and Integrated Networks at Creative Technology. Thank you both so much for being here and welcome.
Thanks, Megan.
Thank you.
Good to be here.
Thank you.
Thank you. So I'd just like to let our audience know you can post any questions you have for our panelists in that box to your right-hand side, and we'll come to those towards the end. So let's get straight to it. Emili, what were the main challenges when you first started working on the return of live sporting events?
Well, the lockdown period was very stressful. First, we had to ensure that all our permanent continuity services, MCR, NOC, playouts, etc., continued to function without limitations around the world. Once the remote production operation from the locations of the service operators was resolved, we began to work on the return of to live sports production with the premise, of course, of first comes the health of our professionals and then the production. Probably thanks to 7 years of experience in remote sports production, it wasn't difficult for us to develop what we named the Localized production system, allowing us to operate replays and shading remotely from Barcelona and Madrid, minimizing the risk of contagion per trip and reducing the number of people working inside our events. Meanwhile, La Liga was working on its strict COVID protocols, and at the same time, our creative teams were working flat out to come up with imaginative solutions as how best football fans could continue to watch their favorite sport in the best conditions. This led us to make some changes in the position of the cameras, both to minimize the effect of the empty stands and to take advantage of the absence of the public to gain access to better perspectives for the cameras, while maintaining the same number of cameras and resources in all La Liga productions.
Excellent, thank you. Can you tell us a little bit about how you had to adapt your workflows to the remote model?
We needed to add some new encoding systems to our. Well, we have a very large network in all the stadiums. We connect all the stadiums with a double network with good quality of service and good bandwidth. But we don't have a lot of bandwidth to work and compress it. We needed to adapt this new codecs to this network, to add the multi-viewers for the ADS operators, to have redundancy in case of failure in one of the two networks, and try to put the same, trying to have the same environment to the operators to have the sensation that they are working inside the OB-band and not in an isolated room in Madrid or Barcelona. This was probably the challenge when we started the remote operation during the lockdown, the remote operation project during the lockdown. But we needed 1 week to define technically what we will use, and well, probably due to the limitations during this period, we needed a little bit more time to receive all the equipment and do the first tests locally, and to implement this in our OB bands and in our production centers to integrate as a plug and play system to work every week. This next week or this next match day for La Liga, we will produce 10 matches with this remote operation.
Fantastic, thank you. So let's go back to talking about football for a second. So El Clasico is a sporting fixture like absolutely no other. And for most people, it is more than just a football match. Can you tell us about your approach to hosting the match and how it might have differed from previous years?
Well, first of all, taking into account that the same weekend MediaPro produced the Clásico, we produced 140 other football matches in 13 different countries. But the Clásico is never one more. Not only because of the audience, the Clásico draws a bigger audience than any Super Bowl, but because it's always a challenge to live up to the requirements of La Liga. And even more so when all the restrictions to be implemented to protect all from COVID-19. We needed more than 25 event tracks in previous seasons to cover each Clásico, but we had to face the latest clash with far more restrictions in place. The match was produced in UHD HDR as the last ones, using 32 cameras, including the helicopter, drone, traveling in the stands, pan-tilt robotic cameras with long lenses in the pitch to get much closer to the players while respecting social distance limitations. The Omni for Sky and the small UHD HDR pan-tilt cameras in the tunnel where we are using Panasonic cameras on displays, etc.
Excellent, thank you. So MediaPro have been involved in some major graphic enhancements within the coverage of both La Liga and the Segunda Division, using AR to provide players data for analysis. Can you explain a little bit more about that project?
Yeah, I think we have a video that we can show in 2 minutes what this means in the screen.
We do indeed. Would you like us to run that now?
Yeah.
Lovely. Rich, can you run the video for us?
Yes, please.
The best football in the world shouldn't just be seen, it has to be experienced, because it's not football, it's La Liga. A unique competition that reaches millions of viewers all across the globe, all of whom deserve to in the most intense way possible. With the aim of offering viewers the best experience, La Liga has been at the forefront of sport broadcasting for decades. And with the support of MediaPro, it has been a pioneer in the implementation of the most groundbreaking technological solutions in the world. The immense technical deployment on La Liga's behalf allows viewers to follow the game from every possible angle, even from the player's perspective. Also offering a stunning blend of augmented reality and data analytics in real time, transforming each match into a far more enhanced and sharper experience for fans. Broadcasting studios and innovation go hand in hand when it comes to La Liga, which now boasts astonishing possibilities offered by augmented reality.
Bueno, pues un placer poder contar con Coque Resurrección en directo aquí en el plató.
Thanks to all these technological breakthroughs, viewers' experience has taken an immense leap in quality, and La Liga has become a benchmark for major international competitions. But in the world of innovation, there's always more path to travel, one step further to go. And the top Spanish competition continues to evolve, with data analytics, artificial intelligence, and machine learning as pillars of its technological projects. And with some big news coming this season. Football happens and is truly lived on the pitch. That's why this season La Liga is offering viewers greater innovation once again by integrating data and augmented reality graphics in real time on the pitch. The result is an organic and immersive experience that allows fans to live every game even more intensely and to help them understand even better just what's happening on the pitch. Obtaining all the latest data and stats about players and the evolution of the game in real time. Revealing patterns in shot placement and the odds of success for free kicks and penalties. All this combined with the possibility of watching the game with a virtual audience. A pioneer in the technology world, which has been implemented in record time with total success. But all this you've seen is just one more step on a path of innovation which knows no end. Thanks to the outstanding endeavors made by the technology department at La Liga, the broadcast of our championship will continue to set the standard and to provide even greater value for viewers each and every day. The best football in the world requires the best technology to enjoy La Liga as it's deserved to be enjoyed. Because it's not just about watching La Liga, you have to live it.
Well, I think this is much easy to understand. This is provided by MediaPro to all La Liga matches, first and second division per match game. This means 21 matches per week. And this is thanks to the experience of the MediaPro group during for many years in augmented reality. We have experience in digital billboard replacement and for the 3D carpets near the goals. We are replacing this real picture with virtuals to have personalized billboards in different countries or in different areas of the distribution. The knowledge that we have acquired over the years in the MediaPro group has allowed us to implement in record time the crazy idea of filling the stands with virtual fans as a result of the lockdown. No? Although the most interesting aspect in the integration of live data streaming coming us directly from Media Coach, that's the tracking system installed in all the Liga stadiums to deliver information to the coaches to grow and to play better with the maximum level of La Liga in the game. And this allows us to add graphics on the field and combine it with the production that follows the players in live, and with information about their form on the day, as well as any interaction between the player and his teammates. This integration allows us to add a wealth of new information, very interesting for fans, and in a much more visual and easy to understand way. Currently, La Liga matches have between 2 and 5 layers of augmented reality.
Wow, you've been so busy in lockdown. Thank you so much for sharing this with us. I'm really interested to find out, Emili, where do you see the future of live sport production going?
I have no the ball, but no, it's very difficult to foresee the future. But I'm sure that this will depend on the sport. We can use different technologies for different sports production. Thanks to the lockdown, producers and TV directors have accepted to work in a different manner, but still produce a huge, many different kinds of sports. Using many IP-based devices to work remotely or decentralized for producing sports, combining or replacing the traditional method is now possible only in very specific cases. But probably the most important thing is that we have advanced 7 or even 7 years, 5 or 7 years in the mind of the producers and clients. Now, technically speaking, all connected devices can work together, regardless of where the device is. We know that some manufacturers, as Panasonic or others, are working in IP-based cameras and with production systems in the cloud and connected devices working in the same production. Probably this will be the next step to integrate in the major part of a sports production. It will be interesting to see how these new workflows start working in the market shortly. No?
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. Thank you for sharing your insight. Now over to you, Sid. Creative Technology were involved in providing remote graphics feeds for the World Athletics Half Marathon Championships just last month. Can you shed a little bit of light onto that for us?
Yeah, it was an interesting project, more because it had to pivot very last minute when the international travel restrictions were implemented. So we couldn't actually travel any crew. It was the same on the broadcast side. So NEP, are part of the group that we're a part of, had to do a remote production broadcast for it as well. But for us, it's quite an alien experience feeding LED screens with remote graphics, because we generally rely on very high quality local rendering, etc. So in the end, we had to produce everything from our facility in Crawley, and use SRP streams to feed the LED screens directly to a local provider. So a lot of elements there that were outside of our comfort zone, but again, it draws on the and builds on the kind of technology that we've been implementing now for the last certainly 6 months extensively. So it was something we kind of pivoted towards, and now something that I think the federations are now in talks with us about doing this on a much larger scale for some of the larger competitions, which again follows the same premise of not traveling people. It's something that previously there's not been a big cost benefit to, but moving forward, I think from a workflow point of view, from making sure that you're not as susceptible to local travel restrictions being implemented, it's something that we'll be doing much more of. So yes, it was an interesting one with a last minute pivot.
Yeah, it sounds it. Thank you. So I know that CT have installed its own XR studio. Can you tell us what made CT take that direction, and what technology have you got there?
Yeah, absolutely. We've had an XR program for about 18 months now. A large part of that was in R&D, but we actually, towards the end of last year, built a permanent facility in our studios in Gatwick. So it was finished just in time for the kind of February, everything stopping and nobody traveling. So it was the direction we saw things going in anyway. There's obviously augmented graphics have been used extensively in sports broadcasting for a long time, but in the live events world, and indeed starting to use elements of LED, so you're not using green screen technology, has been quite a driver for that for us, for non-professional presenters. If you can see and interact with the immersive experience around you, rather than having to do it through monitors off green screen, then you get a much more natural experience. So us building an XR studio was really driven towards that, because we're much more able to get presenters into an immersive experience, and then react naturally with that environment. So we use it's essentially two walls of LED at a right angle and an LED floor to create that 3D environment, and then a camera tracks through a MOSIS tracking system to be able just to render content onto the LED screens from the perspective of that camera. So when that camera moves, the content around it moves very naturally as well, and it looks like you're in a full studio. Now you get the options then, of course, of set extensions. You can make yourself appear like you're in a much larger space. You could put yourself in the middle of a football stadium, at the click of a button. That kind of thing, really. So there's some interesting environmental elements to XR, and then obviously the normal augmented reality graphics coming on top, and things like that. So we've been using that extensively for sports productions, but also music productions, corporate launches, lots of things really. So we use Panasonic studio cameras in that, and we had the opportunity in February to actually implement one of the new KROS Panasonic switches in, which allowed us to keep everything in a completely IP workflow. So yeah, been an interesting 6 months.
Yeah, it sounds like you've been extremely busy as well. Thank you. Can you shed any light onto how IP-based technology could help improve CT's work in live production? Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, a lot of what we've done traditionally has been at baseband, often very high bandwidth baseband, because we often drive millions and millions and millions of pixels worth of LED real estate. We're often not limited to 16:9 windows, whether they're 4K or HD. we can often be dealing with very strange aspect ratios, very strange refresh rates, that kind of thing. So using IP to deliver extremely high bandwidth sources for us has been very useful. Pulling in sources into the virtual environment, which was where we first started looking at it in February, it's been essential. So with KWAS able to accept NDI and simply 2110 flows from the studio cameras, and being able to deal with all of those IP sources natively without having to go into any kind of baseband switching has been extremely important, because using a server-based architecture rather than a fixed hardware MEs, etc., you can put up as many pips as you like, as many layers as you like, and it just gives you an awful lot more control of your video production, and very easily. So yeah, that's certainly one of the advantages of IP. The other big part of that is of course remote contribution. Now we've been bringing in presenters almost exclusively remotely now, and we've been developing solutions that allow us to do that with much higher fidelity than using compressed Zoom, Teams, Skype, etc. So you can get very good broadcast contributions. Again, accepting those in natively with no extra conversion on top allows you to keep that quality as good as possible for as long as possible.
That sounds great, thank you. And where do you see the future of live production going?
For us, it's about hybrid events. Everything at the moment exclusively is remote. We often anchor with the studio, but everything else is remote, from your contributors and your presenters to your audience. I see in the future a mix of that. For us, it's looking forward, I think, to hybrid events where you've got a large portion of the audience online, but you've also started to get an increasingly large amount of people in venues. Obviously, for a while with distancing, etc., so capacities will be much more reduced. But for us, it's about maintaining that consistency of experience. So if somebody's viewing online, it shouldn't necessarily be, as it often is with web streams, a much more limited experience. So using streaming platforms to their full, and we've developed our own streaming platform that allows you to interact from it direct into studio AR graphics and all that kind of thing, to give people an extra experience actually if you're watching online, whereas you might be limited if you're in person in the event. I think is quite an interesting direction. So for us, it's about creating that experience for those hybrid events, which I think are going to be with us for quite a while to come.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you very much. So thank you so much, both of you, for your insights. We've got a few minutes left now, so I'm just going to have a look and see if we've had any questions come in from our audience. We have a question for you, Emily, from Sid Collier. What are some of the KPIs you've been seeing being achieved since the partnership with Soporno around 3D carpets was put in place?
Oh, good question. Technically speaking, only I don't know about the business of selling these billboards, but technically speaking, the Soporno system and the engineers of Soporno, we know that they are working very hard to have a very reliable equipment and system, and to keep working during all the match with the maximum quality as possible, with a good insertion in chroma key. This chroma key needs to identify what is in front of the billboards in real time, without problems when the light changes during a sunny day and the shadows. And the colors of the t-shirts are very different in different situations. The goalkeeper has specific colors, and all of this, it seems something simple, but in the real world is very complex to have the best quality and the best insertion to have a real sensations, a real feeling. And Soporno, it works very, very well on this technology, and puts the technology on the market. It's a little bit expensive, but it's between us. But it works. It works very well.
Great, thank you. And we've got a question from Matthew, which is, I think, a general question to you both. In your opinion, what is the best thing to come out of lockdown for the industry?
For me, I think it's collaboration. I think the thing that we've seen as a much larger group, so NEP is obviously a worldwide entity. What we found is that we've gone from lots of companies that work well together and collaborate on site, but are quite separate entities, to actually really pulling together at the back end in terms of technical innovation, in terms of getting experience in from lots of different aspects. I come from the live events side of NEP, and we've been working so closely with the broadcast side of NEP, because essentially every live event now is a broadcast. So for me, it's about the technical collaboration between everyone, and long may that continue.
Totally agree. The collaboration and to know how people can work without the face-to-face meetings in the same way, and probably taking profit of this isolation to be more interested on try to develop new workflows and new ways to work, and well, operating in big groups with a lot of challenges at the same time, and trying to integrate the traditional manner with the new workflows we needed to apply to preserve this safety and to adapt the restrictions to our day-to-day production.
Lovely, thank you. And I can see we also have a question from Stephanie. What pieces of advice would you share to set up a virtual production environment? Super broad.
Wow, that is quite broad. I think get people involved who've done it before. There's a massive learning curve, and I think certainly getting involved partners who've done it before and can draw upon teams' experience is probably the first step for that.
Thank you. Emili, would you agree?
Yeah, but I really don't know. But obviously, I agree with Sydney. But we have no more than this. No?
Great, thank you. Well, thank you ever so much, everybody, for joining us. Thank you to our fantastic panelists, Emili and Sid.
Thank you.
Thank you.